Board, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, let's get right into our agenda. First up, we have Suzanne Walton. Welcome.
Thank you.
Here to talk about a digital sign request for Grove Street.
Yes. So I wanted to request that. But first I'll start off by saying that I've been a resident of Bellingham for about 20 years. We just recently, well, not recently, 8 years ago, moved to Grove Street. So over the last year, I've worked with Sergeant Rolls, and he got us thickly settled signs, as well as I think it's children present, or I forget what the exact verbiage is. So they placed those on the road, and I think that was about 2 or 3 months ago.
Okay.
Because I had talked to him about potentially getting some signs, some digital signs to put up. The ones, I'm sure you guys are all familiar with them, the ones that light up and then they say the speed limit underneath.
Right.
We have a ton of traffic that comes from Milford. All of the construction that comes, work that comes out of there from the new developments that have been going even adjacent to us and further down in Milford, all the Amazon trucks, and all of the workers just speed through there. So in talking with Sergeant Rolls, he said the speed limit on our road in some areas is 40 miles an hour. Now I live probably about 1/10 of a mile coming from Hartford Ave into Grove Street. And that right there has a speed limit sign, which I guess was put up by a former person, I don't know who, of a speed limit of 25 miles an hour. I think it is really 30 miles an hour on our road. Up until you get to the horse stables, almost approaching Milford, which becomes less thickly settled and becomes about 40 miles an hour.
Okay.
At the very least, I just want to request speed limit signs so people are aware of what the speed limit is on that road. We've had so many accidents because the road is so narrow. You can barely fit two regular sized cars. Even SUVs will fit appropriately down. And they just did line the road, which helps a lot. But so many people get flat tires and there's so much congestion because Mellon Street isn't open in Hopedale that we've gotten all that traffic. I know it's not a new thing to Bellingham, but the fact remains these people have hit my mailbox. People have hit my neighbors, like actually hit them with their mirrors speeding down the road, and there's never enough time to find these people when they do things like that. There's also, I'm talking huge construction, like they take up 3/4 of the road going down there.
Okay.
And I understand there's no way to really get no trucks going down that road, because how can we possibly do that? I think other main streets in our town, they have not been able to pass that through the town because it's statewide. It's like a state mandate of some sort. But at the very least, I'd like to request many speed limit signs. The biggest ask I have is to get one of those digital signs, and I know they cost a lot of money. I think somebody had said they were about $4,000 each. And it's a huge ask, but I think for the safety of the many children, the many families, the many animals that live on that street, it would be beneficial to Grove Street in general. So I came just myself right now to kind of feel out, what the selectmen have to say about that, maybe gather some more support from my neighbors if we need to. But I think this is my first step in trying to navigate into more speed signs. So I would be open to hearing what you guys have to say about it, how you feel about it, because I know there's other streets in our town that, have the same problem because of the congestion of all the vehicles in our town and the speed. So
I appreciate you coming in to at least express your concerns. We value your input, obviously.
So
What are some
Sergeant Rolls is here. Maybe he could speak
I
to.
Sergeant Rolls.
Yeah.
I do.
How you doing?
How are you?
You can sit at the table if you'd like. You don't have to stand.
I agree with the signboards. That the signboards We cross along with more than $4,000.
Are we talking about what's currently on like
On, like,
Center
Center
Street where
Street?
it says your speed is, here's the speed limit? Okay,
Something like that.
right, okay.
They're more like 10. I've talked with Mobisa, who built all the houses over there. Had 2 discussions with him. It's fallen on deaf ears. Actually, I get a flat out, no, we're not doing it. So they're not going to get involved with helping us out after they built all those houses over there. And right now with Alfonso and Lobitzer are back in there building many more houses. They're all in Milford. But I did ask them, they were on site construction foreman. And it all fell on deaf ears. I never heard anything back from them, and I was actually told no, because they're too much into it for the property and back over here.
Lee, as far as speed limit, posted speed limit goes, that street I don't think has been rated, correct?
No, it hasn't. We've never done a speed study on that street. Okay, the speed study.
That's why it's posted thickly settled, and thickly settled
Is that why?
means.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Thickly settled means 30 miles an hour.
Right.
Rural is 40 miles an hour. And if we did a speed study on that road, how fast are the cars going?
I would say anywhere between 40 and 55,
Okay.
maybe 60
So-
sometimes.
The state will come out, they'll take their readings,
Right.
and it's at the 81st percentile is where the speed's gonna be.
So you
So
might
the
end up
speeds
with
are gonna really
posted 40 mile an
Well,
hour speed.
And that's like Center Street, when we did something along those lines, the actual cars weren't, and
Backfired on them.
it backfired, and you have to be careful
Right,
with that. We'd be better off going up there and posting, if we had the manpower to put in
Absolutely.
some, police officers up there to take some speed to get us some anecdotal evidence.
We've sent the police officers up there.
Yeah.
I personally have sat up there,
have you?
and what I see is the workers they go into Dell, they go into the industrial park, they drive into the Amazon warehouse. It's all in Milford. And on a day where I sit up there, I've sat up there in my personal car before and counted the Amazon trucks coming by. I've sat up there in a cruiser, one phone call is made, and you see 4 or 5 Amazon trucks. That's all you see. They seem to be redirecting themselves into Milford. If they see a marked car.
Are those the biggest offenders you feel, the Amazon truck drivers, or is it?
I would say the
more-
employees of all of like the businesses that are up there as well. You see a lot of Rhode Island drivers. I would say they're the biggest speeders, not to,
It's a comfort.
The Amazon trucks themselves, like on Maple Street, we have an issue.
Yeah.
But those gray trucks, they actually have governors inside the vehicles, and they're all, if they're going over the speed limit, they actually get dinged. Each of these drivers get what they call like a FICO score. And for each violation, this where they start at this level and they go down, and they can lose their job. So I can tell you on Maple Street, those gray trucks, they've slowed the traffic down because they're going the speed limit or below. And I see it. I live on Maple Street. I guarantee it's the people driving to work and leaving work are the trouble. It's not so much the gray vans. They're trained, because I have the same problem. I've called over to the manager of this. You need to slow your drivers down because it's like on a Friday night. It's nuts how fast it is. You can see them leaving the facility.
Oh, yeah.
I was walking
Are
my
you
dog
referring-
the other night, and that's exactly what happened. It's crazy.
In their personal vehicles.
They were in their personal vehicles, and that's the trouble. In Grove Street, I've traveled that street many times.
right.
And I know people don't hear this, but they're all, against the Depot Street. You let something happen good on Depot, like you bring in some of those buildings that nobody wants. That's what we can work with those developers to do something for us in that intersection and onto Grove Street. We absolutely can do that. And with Lovis are coming here, we can actually talk to him from a planning board perspective and say, if you're doing help here, we need some help on Grove Street too.
Right.
There are things that we can do with these buildings. If we know, if you've approached them, they said no, it's a matter of maybe going to a different person and saying, hey, listen, you want this? We need this.
Exactly.
And that's what we need to do is work with them.
Conversations with Kevin.
And with
probably.
the help
Exactly.
of the board and the
Yeah.
planning board, I think that maybe Lobis would help us out.
It would, yeah, they take it from a different approach.
Right.
Because it is a problem up there, and it is narrow. In fact, I sent Dennis something today in an email, a resident from Bellingham. Something they did in Holliston, I don't know the details behind it. In town of Holliston, they designated some certain streets that commercial vehicles were not allowed on certain streets. Now, it took a lot of work with the state to make that happen, but I sent an email to Dennis. You may not have had a chance to see it, because I got it from a resident this afternoon, and I forwarded to Dennis. I'm gonna look into it, but there's something we might be able to do. Designate certain streets. High Street's another one of those, where the cut between Maple Street and 126 with the softball field. That's very similar to Grove.
Oh my gosh,
Really
yeah,
narrow.
yeah.
I mean, sight lines are really poor. We're so fortunate we haven't had a number of accidents. Just a question I have for Sergeant Rolls. How many, I'm sure we have the numbers, but is that street, Grove Street, higher accident than other streets?
No, it's not.
It's not. That's
It's
why I would
it's
ask.
well within the, I do the
Yeah,
accident.
yeah, you do
report,
that stuff. That's wrong.
And unfortunately, it's not.
So we have to build
You know, I
case
mean,
to
it's-
help you.
Yeah.
And you see a few
Yeah.
of them, but it's over in a long period of time before we can get, funding, things like that for it.
Madam Chair?
I was just gonna say, Grove Street, unfortunately, like what you were saying, Don, Grove Street turns into Milford. So doing something like restricting access from commercial vehicles probably would not be applicable in
They
that
have the
area.
industrial park right up the street.
Yeah.
It's in Milford,
Mm.
so they have every right.
Yeah, well, and that's the
Right.
thing, because in what I was reading, the reading thing about Holliston is they actually had to work with Medway, because there's a street in Holliston, South Main, that runs into Clark Street. It's up going toward Milford on the Route 16 side. So they actually had to work with other towns to make it up. I'm not suggesting we can do that,
Right,
but there's a lot of things that we can discuss, and I think I'm glad you brought it to our attention.
absolutely. And I'm willing to do whatever work needs
Yeah.
to on the resident and stuff.
In the short term, don't we have the portable machines? I know that Doug and Lenny from the 20 mph that can be used to attach.
They've been down all summer. We've been waiting for batteries, these special batteries. I believe they're in now, so I could.
I just think in the short term, we can immediately put them up on the
Yeah.
signs.
Right.
It's so hard to put them out on Grove Street.
I was just
There's
gonna
no
say that,
room.
how
you
much
put it?
room
Yeah,
is it gonna
it's-
take
No, no, I'm
up?
talking about the
That's-
one that just, it's no bigger
Oh,
than.
no,
this
yeah,
box.
no,
right?
we won't get, those are for the school.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I
The
mean,
ones that we have, the bigger trailers.
Yeah.
no, I would not want to do that because of the space, but
Yeah.
we do have them for the
Couldn't-
schools where
Why
they get
couldn't we get
attached.
one like we have at the school? Is that
You
not?
you could,
It's
that
gonna be
would
a
be
lot
a
cheaper.
cost, yeah. it
That's
costs-
not 10 grand, is it?
No, no,
Like
those
this,
are cheap.
They
Those
just
are-
battery, the
Sure, the
batteries only
signs
last
like
2 or
this
3 days at a time, but if you
Yeah.
put them out there, at least
Yeah,
you're telling people we're gonna start taking
Then
them.
they have to be charged again.
They take them in and out.
It might be
I'm
worth it.
sure they have a solar one.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
on the poles?
They attach them to the pole and it just reads that you're over the speed limit, so the sign's there that says 20.
Yeah.
It tells you, or it may just light up that says you're over the speed limit, doesn't even have to tell you the
We could
speed.
look at getting a few of those and using them in other locations.
You just, and they're,
That would be awesome.
Doug and Lenny put them in the different schools because they don't have enough for every school, but they can
Right.
change them for Blackstone Street, Marvin.
Because you're right, Lee, you couldn't put one of the big ones on that street.
No,
because
that's the
it's-
problem we have with radar too. That you put in a car, you put a car in a
Yeah.
driver, people don't realize you just can't shoot the radar with the car. You need a straight shot to tell
Okay.
because what you're doing is you're getting the beam off the headlight.
Yeah.
It's like a radar dish, and that's what you're
Okay,
hitting.
right.
So if it's on an angle,
You're not gonna get one.
it just doesn't work.
So if I'm driving down the highway, I can put black tape on my
Hey,
lenses.
there you go. No, because the
Until you
state,
get pulled
state
over.
police have, state police have LiDAR,
Yeah.
which is an infrared.
Yeah,
Yeah, so they
Different.
don't have.
I'm only
radar.
joking.
All right.
Mr. Spencer, did you have a comment?
Yeah, just kind of along the same lines as Mr. Martinez and Mr. Connor. If the portable ones that we have, obviously we can't put them on Grove Street because it's not wide enough, obviously. But if we could maybe relocate the ones from the, I don't know, can we relocate the ones from the school that we have and put the portable ones in the school and just kind of see what the effect is and if the effect helps. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Okay, oh, sorry. And just see if it's actually effective. And if it is, then like Mr. Martinez says, when we come to mitigation for projects that may happen or may not happen on Depot Street and or the new Oberster project, maybe we can have them invest into that permanent type situation. I mean, I think if we have the technology that we can kind of manipulate to see if we're getting the desired results first,
Right.
and then make the ask, you know what I'm saying? That's all. That road is, yeah, I don't know how anyone can speed on that road.
So one of the things that I won't dance them, I did talk to Mr. Frank recently, because of High Street, because it's, it's crazy and there's blind spots and et cetera. One of the thoughts I had was, and I've seen these in other towns, was almost put like a rumble strip with not a really high speed bump and have a sign, but I guess we'd have issues with our insurance carrier or whatever for doing, I wanted to put rumble strips 10 feet on either side and just have a small speed, just to slow them down. Even a rumble strip, not even a speed bump, just sort of a, hey, like you have on the highway, if we could put those and paint them yellow, can we do that without having insurance get all worked up
We have
over
to
it?
talk to our town lawyers and town council that they, we tried to do that on several streets.
Yeah.
And we were told not to. How about high visibility paint? We could do that, like in downtown Holliston, they're all bright yellow.
Well, that's kind
Yeah.
of, without the rumble strip, I guess high visibility
Yeah.
paint.
Yeah,
that
that'd
might-
still get you to
Get you to
pay
slow down a
attention.
little bit.
Yeah, get you to slow down.
I think on other streets.
I
in the
would say
town-
around the softball fields.
Why don't we
Yeah,
just mill, why don't we just mill the street? Yeah, well, why don't we just mill the street like they've done on Center Street and not repave it?
I know.
Slow down.
Mill the
Mill-
street.
Mill the
street.
street.
And then not repave it.
That'll slow people
That'll
down.
start a whole.
Then you'll
other
have dust and then that's.
conversation.
All right, so it sounds like we have a.
Not a bad, that's a pretty good idea, actually.
Save ourselves some money.
I think it was just
So it sounds like we have a couple of options to
Yeah,
look
some
into
things
and.
to check
Okay.
on, and I can talk with Lee whether or not the swap idea that Mr. Spencer suggested, that may be a
That
good.
would
Yeah.
be great. I'll
Yeah.
talk with Doug tomorrow. See if we can.
Just to see
Could
what
we
you
add this
guys-
to the agenda 6 weeks out so that at least we know that we're coming back to talk about it?
So should I come back for that meeting and just kind of follow up with you guys? or
We'll
how
have
you
Hillary
guys-
coordinate with you. Yeah, let's collect some data and,
Okay,
get the signs out and see.
wow, thank you so
if it has an
much.
impact.
I
Sure.
really appreciate that so very much.
I'll do an accident study on the past 5 years on what we have on Grove Street. I think, one is too many, but
Right.
maybe 3 or 4 a year.
Sure.
Mhm.
So we could,
Yeah.
but I'll review all my data
Yeah.
and I'll give it to the board.
Do we have anything at the intersection of Hartford Ave in Grove Street? Is
I have
any
that
part of
too.
that?
Yeah.
I'd like to see. if
Yeah.
There's anything.
Yeah,
there.
I could expand it out to
That would
that.
be helpful.
It wouldn't be a problem. I have them from years ago when the mall was gonna come in, but I'll refresh them.
Thank you.
That goes to the case of putting a stoplight at Hartford
The
and.
depot.
Grove
Oh, I-
Depot.
Yeah.
Been wanting to light there for years.
That's a crazy.
Let's start the momentum.
Well, you just need something there to slow,
Yeah,
that
you're
just slows
taking
the
your life
traffic
going
down.
across when I go out, I'm like, okay.
Well, remember when they had the
Yeah.
median there, that was
Yeah.
even tougher at
Yeah.
night, you didn't see it.
Well, it's
I
funny
did it
coming,
one time.
yeah, coming out of Grove Street to the
tough.
left, there's the owners before this owner put up this big white fence, you couldn't even see past. And then I think they were asked to take down half of it, and now you
Yeah,
can
I
kind
did,
of see
yeah.
past it.
I mean,
Yeah,
Well,
that
which
was,
one that
that
is,
was
yeah.
great,
That
because you
was tough.
really couldn't see, and you were just taking your life going.
And they
So,
were very nice about that.
Yeah,
They absorbed the cost of moving the fence off.
yeah,
Not a problem.
thank you for your help, I appreciate that as well, I did.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so we will circle back to you
Okay.
in about 6 weeks. Give us some time
Sounds
to collect
great.
data and maybe test out the signs and see what
Okay.
the
The
impact
signs,
is.
the sign, you can get a cheaper sign, a much cheaper sign.
Okay.
We like the solar signs, so we don't have to go around
Right.
with the batteries and all that. And also, some of those signs aren't weather tight.
Okay.
So with the rain and all that, they blow out the batteries and you get more
Do
bad.
you have information on that we can maybe look
Sure.
at in terms of the cost and
Yes.
maybe we can pull that all in together?
I'll talk to our vendor.
Excellent.
I use him enough that he'd be very happy to help.
Good, awesome.
That's
All
great.
right. Thank you
Thank
guys
you so
both for
much,
your time. We
I feel
appreciate
really
it.
good about this, thank you. I
Good.
feel like this is great.
Glad to hear that.
I know, you know.
That's a beautiful thing. We don't hear that very often.
Yes.
I like it.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
very
very
much.
much.
Well,
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Suzanne.
All right, have a good night.
Thank you. All set with me?
Thank you. Yes,
Thank
we
you,
are.
Sergeant
Thank
Rolls,
so
for
much.
coming in.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming in.
All right, next on our agenda, we have the purchase of property at 215 Depot Street. How do we want to handle
Well,
the discussion on that?
we have, getting close, to entering into a purchase and sales agreement for property located at 215 Depot Street. There, I know board members have been down to the site and they've seen the property. We have discussed it in the executive session when we were negotiating the price, and I think it's time to discuss it publicly or present it publicly, because we will be going for the Finance Committee, Capital Improvements Committee, and having public discussions, and ultimately be going to town meeting in November. So essentially, the site consists of 10,000 square feet of primarily garage space for our DPW. It also has permitted another approximately 10,000 square feet of additional space that does have the utilities already extended there and ready to go. So whether it's additional office space or garage space, the opportunities are there. Tim Cardy had been keeping his eyes open for potential opportunities with regard to purchasing properties. You know, we were looking at a property in Williams Way at one point in time, and it didn't work out for us. It's just so expensive right now to build new space like that, and opportunities like this are so rare. But the board did approve us to go forward with a purchase sale agreement for $2.7 million. We're looking at additional funds to construct office space as well. And Tim, I don't know if you want to just briefly give an overview of the site, maybe?
Yeah, sure. So the expanded space.
I know you like to be on TV.
No, that's fine. So the expanded area that was approved on, it was approved by the planning board. So the two spaces that you guys all saw out there has the sewer all stubbed to it. The bathroom piping is already there as well. So they're pretty much designated where they would go. But you know, the layout is there. It was all excavated, so it's all the good material. So it's really ready to go. I mean, the power line is right there. You can bring the water in from the street. It's pretty ideal spot for expansion, for whether it was going to be additional warehouse or even an office space out on the front, right near the road. So the condition buildings we have, so we hired an independent inspector. He's taking a look at it, and he's going to evaluate the skins and the condition of the overall buildings, and he's going to give us a report on that.
When are you expecting that to know? Is that a couple
I
weeks?
should have that within a couple weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So well in advance of town meeting.
Absolutely.
Okay, because I'm sure that might be pushing.
So, I mean, there's a little bit of age to the buildings. You know, they're kind of, there's one that's probably now, it's like, I think it's like 18 years old. Class.
Yep.
Yeah. So there is some stuff that obviously is going to need to be done, but nothing big. Everything's pretty straight, and it's a pretty nice looking building. So I think we're fortunate to find something that kind of fits our needs.
Right, and plus Don obviously is all on board.
Yeah, Mr.
DiMartino.
DiMartino was actually
Yeah,
asked him
oh, hi, Don.
to join us on the call. We did have a meeting last week with his management team to go over the logistics of how we might coordinate an operation. Obviously, it's a challenge because we would keep the Blackstone Street facility for certain parts of the operation, but the primary operation would be on Depot Street. So, Don, anything to offer with regard to the purchase?
No, just pretty much as what's been said. It's actually measures out at more like 12,000 square feet. We're working with 7,300 square feet now. It will immediately solve our space problem for get vehicles inside. All vehicles can be stored inside. And yeah, once and it's a big part of this package is the office space, which again, it's all plumbed and ready to build out there, permitted. And once that is built and up, and that's where the office is, then the sort of a major DPW facility will be Depot Street. And then where we are now will be snow and ice, because that's where the salt is, and seasonal storage otherwise. So it's, again, as you know, I'm not going to be here for that many more years. The guys who are going to be here a while were very excited about it, and they're already game planning for it. So it's it's great to finally solve a problem that we've been dealing with for a long time.
We'll be having hearings before, as I said, finance and capital. So hopefully some of you can attend those meetings to offer your support. John obviously will be there, I'll be there, and I'll let Tim know so we can make arrangements to make a presentation, and also offer to those boards if they'd like to go and visit the site. I'm sure the owners won't mind it.
I think CIC was hoping to have it be able to be presented at we're having a joint meeting with FinCom on the
Capital,
26th.
okay, good.
Yep, Capital and FinCom. So I know Joe had expressed wanting to be able to discuss it
Good.
at that meeting since everyone will be there.
Good.
Which makes sense.
It does.
Well, practically speaking, we're spending millions of dollars on equipment that we need, and to have it in exposed air is just.
Doesn't
crazy.
make sense.
Doesn't make any sense,
Yeah.
yeah.
Last winter, we actually rented space to store our
Right.
street sweeper and our back truck, which combined the 4 vehicles are worth over $1 million.
Right,
So I think we're at our crisis point with regard to storage. Either we needed to construct new space at the existing site, which was estimated to cost considerably more than
Right.
what we'll be investing here. And we always have that option down the road. This is a valuable piece of property that the town's acquiring. So 10 years from now, select board decided, you know what, we want to expand on Blackstone Street. This site has tremendous value and certainly would be an asset for the town to move if that was what was decided at that point in time. So it's not something that we're getting into that we can't move on from down the road if that was a decision that was made. But I think it's the right time to do something.
It's really long overdue. When you see the facility on Blackstone Street, you know, we've been holding it together at Dawn and been holding it with duct tape and glue for a number of years. And when you have a unique opportunity such as this, when that property comes up like this, and it's literally almost perfect, it's almost move-in ready. It solves a huge problem for our DPW. And it really does so at a much lower cost and burden on the town by being able to take advantage of the space.
Right.
When will we have a hard number, so to speak, of what we will be looking for above and beyond the
The
sales
number
price?
that Chief Financial Officer is working with is $5 million.
Okay.
That will, but what we've asked, I know Tim is working on some estimates for the office space, so that we'll be able to present, you know, it's 2.7 to purchase, it's this to build the office space, so we can put it forward. It's not just an arbitrary
Yeah,
number that we
okay.
can pull out of a hat, so to speak. But that's the number we're working with bond counsel
Okay.
and preparing as far as working into the debt schedule.
Right. Okay.
So that's the number.
Dan, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I just want to kind of, before I was on the board of the select board, I was on a committee with regards to the DPW, you know, and I think the numbers, correct me if I'm wrong, Dennis or Don, were $8 to $10 million to build a new facility. And here we are 10, 11, 12, 13, maybe 14, 15 years later, because I think those numbers were even before that committee was established back in 2009, 2010. So the fact that we're getting the property at 2.7 and can upgrade it and to make it a full-blown facility for potentially half of what the 2010 estimates were is, I know the number sounds huge when people are listening, 2.7 plus upgrades, but that number is very accommodating to our budget. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there.
Right. Thank you. Any other comments or input anybody wants to add? All right, so the next steps are.
We'll have to purchase, the attorneys have been going back and forth on the PNS, they're very close.
Right.
And once they do, the board did vote to authorize our chairperson to sign that.
Right, okay. Good. All right, we're good?
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Don.
Thank you.
Next,
Thank you. Have a good night.
you bet. Next, we have September abatements. Mrs. Grant, would you like to?
Madam Chair, I would like to present the abatements for September 2021 as follows. Capital improvement charge in the amount of $225, sewer in the amount of $414.82, stormwater in the amount of $120, trash in the amount of $522.50, water in the amount of $488.25 for a grand total of $1,770.57. There are some explanations below of some of the errors in miscellaneous, but it's not a super high figure, and there weren't really any that stuck out at me, but if anyone has any questions while perusing.
It's pretty straightforward. Dan, any
numbers are-
questions, comments?
No, those numbers have been going down and down since,
Crazy
kudos to the DPW for getting all these abatements and all these water penalties in order to avoid all these abatements. So it looks good.
All right, so we have a first from Mrs. Grant. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Don. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None.
Just arrow back.
One of these days. Okay, next up, we have a cultural council reappointment, Daryl Crowe. I know Hillary pulled together a detailed listing of, sort of who's up when, and Daryl is the next person. What do we need to do in terms of procedurally?
Just if
Hillary?
you want to reappoint him for another 3-year term.
So it's a
They
motion.
can serve 2
Right.
3-year terms.
Okay,
Motion to approve Crowe through 10/29/24.
Second?
first from Michael, second from Kelly. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? None. All right. Next up, under old business. I'm sorry. I skipped right over that, didn't I? September 20th meeting minutes. Any motion?
Motion to approve.
First from Dan, second.
Second?
Second from Kelly. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None. I'm throwing things off by using first names. Do I need to use? Probably mix it up a
Nope,
little
I
bit,
know
just
that
for a little
everyone's
variety. What's that?
I said I know everyone's first name.
Right. Okay, under old business, senior tax work-off discussion.
So at our last meeting,
Yeah.
Don had brought up the issue of taking a look, or requested that we take a look at the program to see where we were at with regard to the hourly rate and the amount of seniors, the amount of money that we were spending. And Cheryl did a great job. Cheryl Hanley and the assessors office putting that information together. But essentially what it shows is that we probably have the most thriving program as far as senior tax work-off of anyone, which shouldn't be a surprise since we were the second community in the state to institute the program back in the mid-90s, and it's just flourished. Other communities, Cheryl was saying when she was calling for the information, was asking, how do we get so many people engaged in the program? And I think it's just something over the last 25 years that people have gotten used to. They enjoy it, they look forward to it, and it's of huge benefit to the town as well as to the individuals. But what it does show is that we are low as far as the hourly rate goes. We're very high as far as the participants. Even the town of Franklin, which is twice the size of Bellingham, I think they limit the annual budget for this to $100,000. And I think the select board had limited it to $125,000 plus another $25,000 for veterans. So we have a great program. I think if we were going to look at something, not to say that we'd have to act on it this evening, the program for this year ends the end of November, then the December 1st. Next year, the program starts. But the one thing I would look at is certainly the hourly rate. But at the same time, I wouldn't necessarily suggest that we increase the amount of the abatement. I think $1,000 is a good number because it allows greater participation or a great amount of participation for our seniors. We haven't had to tell people, no, sorry, we're over the budget. We can't add any additional participants to the program.
I think what it does show though, Dennis, that not all of the people that participate are able to have enough hours to get to that full $1,000. They might only be able to do enough hours to get, because so if we raise the minimum, my thinking is if we raise the minimum to 1,350, but capped it at 1,000, still we're not going over the 1,000, but give them 1,350, they have to work less hours, but that would allow other people that can't get to that 1,000, allow them to get to that 1,000. Not increase over 1,000, but just increase them in the rate from 10 to 1,350. That way all the participants were able to potentially have the ability to max out the full 1,000.
So the net effect is still the same, right? It's just you get there faster because the hourly
Or
rate
in
is
the
higher.
case of some people, as Don was saying, some people that aren't able to get the full 100 hours, because there are a lot of people that'll do 60 hours or 70 hours, and give them more of an opportunity to get there. And it may very well be that the program has to expand or increase the cap. I may come back to you and say, as a result of this, we've got to increase the cap to 135 or 140,000 from the 125, because those people that are now getting to 1,000 that weren't able to before might push it up a little bit.
Right.
I don't think it'll be overwhelming, but I think it's.
What's the risk of going up 25,000?
It's $25,000 of,
Yeah, I mean, I'm in
that could
favor,
otherwise be used in the budget. Yeah.
I'm in favor of adjusting to whatever the minimum wage is, but I would go to $1,200 per person, which is $100 a month, 8 hours a week,
Right.
and adjusted by 25,000, which would cure the 200, because I think there are people that are incredibly valuable to us, that if you limit their hours, we're actually hurting our department's productivity. Because if you take people out, I think you reward them for what they contribute, but if you lose the hours, our own full-time staff are going to be burdened. So, I mean, I would set to whatever the state minimum wage is,
Which is
go to,
13.50.
was it $1,200?
Yeah.
And 150,000 with the 25,000 veterans.
I think we only have maybe 2 veteran participants, but the program's there. for
It
them,
exists,
so-
yeah.
It's there for
Yeah.
them.
So, I mean, if you look at it from that standpoint, we have the 150,000 already built in, we're just not using it.
Something else.
So now we'd just be using a little bit more than we have hours.
That's why I brought this up, because one, I wanted to make sure, after talking with some of these folks, that a lot of people are, like Michael said, Mr. Connor said, they're very valuable. And I think that we've done a really good job, at least the people running the program, doing policing the ones that weren't putting in the effort. We're just kind of hanging around. I think they've done a really good job of policing that. So I'm absolutely in favor of increasing it. I just thought if we're gonna go 1 year, I didn't want to ask the board for too much.
What's the minimum wage?
That's why I want to go to minimum wage $13.50. And in talking with Dennis about this earlier today, the thought was I just didn't want to come and ask for too much. But if the board's open, to going up to 1,200 and $13.50, it still opens it up for more people to get to 1,000, from 800 to 1,000 or 1,100.
So
And we can vote on this tonight.
Yeah, I like
And we
that.
can vote on this tonight
Yeah.
because it's December 1, so, why not get it out of the way?
Mr. Spencer, any comment?
Yeah, just, do we limit it to 125 participants?
I believe we limited it to $125,000.
$1,000, okay. So I'm just looking at the numbers, and obviously 19 and 20 we've maxed out, because if they're all going, I know they're not all going to 1,000, but fiscal 21, there were still 114 participants in the heart of COVID, and that's pretty impressive. So we've got some dedicated senior and veteran work off folks. So yeah, if we want to bump it up, and I'm all in favor.
You look at the town common, even as a recycling center, and they do a really nice job. I was down there again on Saturday to bring some stuff down there. The place looks even better than it did the week before. They really are working hard down there. I'll have to have off, I'll say to the ladies. The ladies down there work their butts off. They really do.
All right, so are we in a space where we want to entertain a motion to move this forward?
Certainly do. So what would the motion be?
I would recommend that we, 1, set to the state minimum wage, 2, increase the amount from 125,000 to 150, plus the original 25,000 for veterans. And thinking about the math, I think the only question is whether we cap at 1350, which would be the same 100 hours for people.
So their cap would go from $1,000 to
$1,350.
$1,350.
Yeah.
But does that restrict participants if you do the math?
We'd have to go, we can run the numbers. And
Yeah.
I think we know what your intention is. You want to run.
I think the intention is to increase it by
I'll run
25,000.
the numbers for
At
the
the minimum
different
wage.
scenarios and then
Right.
bring it back to you for the next meeting, because the program doesn't go into play until December 1, but I'll.
Be about 154,000 would be your cap if you did the 1350 100 hours, which would be 1350 times, I did it times 114, so it's 1539.
114 participants, Cal?
Yeah.
Wouldn't we do it at 125?
Well,
what
I
we have
just
now.
based it on that's what we have
What
now.
we're doing. All right, okay, sorry.
So what would your cap
So the
need
mo-
to be? 160 then? If you had one
Yeah, I think we
twenty-five.
just.
So when we have the motion, when we
We
have
don't
the
have to
motion
do
read that we
tonight.
want to bring it up to the minimum wage.
Put it on the
and then-
agenda for the next meeting.
Right, put it on the agenda. for the next meeting.
Run the map.
Dennis,
Do we need a motion? If you're gonna vote on it?
Madam Chair,
No,
No, we don't, okay, all right.
No,
Just
because
a
we
quick
have
question.
November 1st, so it's 2 weeks.
yeah, we still have time before December 1.
Yeah.
Gotcha, all right.
I think Dan had a question.
Dan,
yeah,
yes?
quick question. Didn't we, when we did the veterans implementation, and we bumped it up, didn't we cap the volunteers at 125, but 25 of those slots were for veterans unless those 25 weren't filled, and then we could increase the senior participation?
I don't know that we did the latter half of what you're saying, but we did limit it to $125,000 and 25,000. But I can't remember, Dan, but to be honest with you, I mean, knowing the board and the value of the program, if it was a couple $1,000s over, we weren't concerned about.
Yeah,
it.
no.
Yeah,
I'm just that's what I'm just trying to say. If we're not getting the veteran participation, which obviously there's probably a lot of seniors that participate under the senior and not the veterans.
sure.
And that's why we kind of were like, we're going to be, if you can't fit under the senior total, you can get in under the veteran total. But I'm all for it. Let's bump it up to 150 and minimum wage, and let's go with it.
All right, so we'll put a placeholder on it for our next
Sure.
meeting and
Just,
have some data from you and make the motion then. All right, anything else under old business? Anything under new business? All right,
Can I
Dennis.
just make an observation?
Sure.
Was very disappointed in the paving work that was done by Hashaw in my neighborhood. In several instances, my neighbors, their driveway to the road has a 1-inch lip. And I was doing work on my driveway and had to have the bottom of my driveway, at my own expense, cut out to match up. They did lateral to the street, but they did not do perpendicular to the driveway. So my driveway had unrolled asphalt that hardened. And it was not just my neighborhood, my house, but it was several on the street. And it just shocked me more because the workers openly told everyone on my street, because they didn't do the entire street, don't worry, you're on a list, you're gonna get paid within the next 2 years. And it was a false statement.
so the workers for the company were
The
saying.
workers for the company were blowing off the neighbors saying, don't worry, yours is gonna get paved within the next 2 years. And I told the neighbors, that is not true. And I wondered, because we hired that vendor, how many other neighborhoods were told similar stories.
We'll have to find out, and they shouldn't be communicating like that at all with the residents.
What's that?
How long ago was your street done? How long ago did this construction work happen?
5 days ago.
Yeah, because you said you had to hire somebody to come in and fix it.
The Cataldo paving was working on my driveway.
Oh, they were already
And
there.
they were there fixing a patch
Yeah.
high in my driveway. And I said, look at this. He said, you gotta take this out because you're gonna have pooled water. So they did it while they were there.
I'll certainly, check.
And I shared the information with the DPW last Wednesday. And they said that I was gonna get a call back from the foreman. And I'm still waiting for that call. I mean, the biggest thing is that these are vendors telling other
Yeah,
community
that's
members like to blow them off, don't worry, and they moved on to the next street.
Mm.
And they've set us up for failure.
Or phone calls and emails that we shouldn't have to take.
Yeah,
So none of the driveways blended into the new.
Not one. And it's very apparent, we had some neighbors that had concrete that, I lost 6 sprinkler systems, 6 sprinklers, and we'll pay to fix those, because technically I have my sprinkler on town property, but it is an expense that I am fixing. And when I asked about remarrying the grass to the paving, they said, we don't do that, that's on the responsibility of the town.
well, those are things that we need to know about, because there may be things there that we worked into the bid that we would be responsible for that.
Yeah, and that's fine,
But we'll have to find out.
but I think the mailer that went out did not say, here's what's going to happen.
Yeah. The mailer from the town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get a visit from the DPW down to the street?
I'm not aware when I was there, but I am not often at my house too.
No, I just wonder if they just went down and maybe observed, took a look. Yeah. Not, we should get them down there.
Definitely follow up.
It's hard after the fact.
I know it is.
Asphalt.
It's happened in other neighborhoods as well.
So, I didn't get that much.
So careful.
Anything else under new business? All right, Dennis, town administrator's report.
All right, I will follow up on that. I hadn't heard those complaints before, but I know Mr. Connor
Well,
mentioned it to me earlier.
I shared it just,
Yeah.
I mean, if someone doesn't share it and only someone else shares it, it's only one instance. But
Right. Yeah.
multiple people do it, it's a trend.
We've, with the, my turn.
Yes.
With the proposed project on Depot Street, there's a warehouse that's proposed. And following the hearings, and one of the things that came out was the issue of tractor trailer trucks parking on Depot Street, both sides, and we had not received any complaints about that. So it was a surprise to me when I was listening, and I contacted police chief, asked him to follow up on that. I know Sergeant Rolls has been, it's primarily Best Buy, and essentially what happens is they do end up parking on both sides of the street, leaving almost a tunnel between the tractor at certain hours. I know you get down there at certain times of the day and it's very quiet, but there are certain hours that this is going on when the trucks are coming in. Sergeant Rolls has been down to speak with the managers, and most recently Tim had been down because it does relate back to their approval process. When they're approved, they're supposed to take care of the vehicles on their site. So we are working on that. We're looking at potential signage. We had a similar problem at Blue Links, which is the large distribution center on Maple Street, where the same type of thing was happening. The trucks were just stacking up. We posted it. We talked with Blue Links, and they've taken care of it. I don't think that goes on anymore like it used to.
Occasionally, there's one, it's somebody maybe coming from the Midwest and they have nowhere to go, so it's no big deal.
So we are working on that. As I say, Tim's been talking with the manager. They do have some solutions in mind. I guess they've purchased some additional warehouse space that is going to take the stress off of the situation here. But the bottom line is the truck shouldn't be stacking, waiting to get in, because Best Buy operations aren't open yet, and trucks are showing up at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, and people are going to work, and they've got to deal with that. So we are working on it. If you've heard anything about it, I know there's been some posts on social media, but prior to this, I was not aware of that problem on Depot Street. I don't think the police were aware of it, but sometimes when things like this happen, proposals like this, we find out about certain situations, so we'll certainly be addressing that. On a more positive note, I know we mentioned it once before, but the continuation of the SNET trail is actually going to be advertised by DCR, Department of Conservation and Recreation, in November. So that trail, proposed trail, which will run from Fox Run Road all the way to Harvard Street, that's going to be bid out in November and under construction. It'll probably take a year to construct it. It'll be much like the trail from Center to Lake, and of course from Lake into the town of Franklin Street. So
That's awesome.
So it wouldn't go beyond Harpen to Blackstone.
won't go beyond it. That'll be the next phase. But they, it's on the master plan for the state, for DCR, and the good news is they are moving forward with it. They will not be putting that additional parking in just yet at Harpen Street, so the trail will basically end. There'll be a walking trail, but parking will be basically the next phase of what they're doing. So there will be some parking, additional parking, eventually constructed down in that the area where it was proposed. Right.
I think the only risk there is that people will try to cut through a trail and park where people are on street parking now for the baseball complex.
Yep, and that could very well happen. For instance, Richardson Field, there's a parking lot there. So
Creates more of a reason to make the Petro a parking lot and eliminate Harpen Street parking.
I think it's one of the things when you say that.
Oh, you mean Primavera?
Primavera.
Yeah.
When you said the
You
beachfront.
said
I was like,
that's
Petro,
not-
nope, Primavera.
Yeah, thank you.
I think that's something we need to get the initial funding for. this town meeting for the environmental assessment, know what it is, and then go to town meeting in May with a proposal to take it down. It's not gonna be cheap. As we said, Macy was 500,000 to 600,000 or 700,000 to take down. This is somewhat smaller, but I think that's the next step there. And I think you're absolutely right, creating additional parking space, a little bit of green space, and eliminating on-street parking on Harvard Street. That's all there.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to put a disc frisbee court up behind the high school and the middle school. Those things are the coolest things around. They are hot as, you know, disc, you know what it is?
Yep.
They're awesome. And I'd love to put one up there.
Were you just playing one over the weekend, or what's inspired this?
Of course. And I saw one a few months ago too, and I just keep seeing them in different communities. And it's a pretty cool, they have one over in Rentham, but I just thought of it as I was looking over Michael.
If I can add to that,
Yeah,
we theoretically could do that at minimal expense.
yeah.
Because there is the wooded area between the high school and the recycling center. And maybe farm it out to Eagle Scout projects.
Yeah.
And not make it an expense of the town.
It's amazing how popular disc frisbee has become. Something started on the West Coast. Like
I'm
that
often
thing.
asked by Eagle Scout candidates what they could do,
That'd
and
be
that is
a great idea.
an interesting concept.
18-hole golf course with frisbees.
Well, that's what you're talking
It's
about. Okay,
disc
yeah,
golf,
I have
not
Disc golf,
heard of
disc
that.
golf.
disc golf.
Disc golf.
They
call
measure
it.
the holes in
Yeah.
feet, not
Yeah.
yards.
Yeah.
Very popular.
You play.
Yeah, play in the
Better
woods.
than the
Play the
question.
woods.
You open up,
I was
you
the one-
effectively create trails in wooded areas.
I was down where my old son lives, there's new development in Redbrook down in Plymouth. And all through the cranberry trails there, they have this really cool disc golf. It's like a frisbee, they're small, they do baskets. I saw one up in Waterville Valley when I was up there over the summer. They're really popular out on the West Coast.
All right, so
Okay.
what do we do with that suggestion?
I just pass it
New
along.
business.
That's what Eagle
Pass
Scout
it
does.
on.
In all seriousness, I would add Mike Reed and Mr. Morano have an analysis. We already have a vendor that's looking at space at the high school,
Mhm.
and we have the mapping of the wooded areas. That probably something that could be incorporated.
Mhm.
All right,
Something new.
that's good. Anything else? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
First from Kelly,
Second.
second from Michael. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All right.
Opposed?
Go Red Sox.
All right, yes, go Red Sox. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.